for joining us today on City Talk. I'm Maria Serrao, and joining us today, filling in for our mayor, is our Mayor Pro Tem, John Cruikshank. John, great to have you in studio today.
Hey Maria, great to be here.
So summer is ending, but we have had a very busy September as October is upon us. So let's go back a little bit and just talk about the last month, because we actually started in August with the Socorro City, our sister city, first group coming into town. But on September 7th was the city's actual anniversary, and we had an open house at City Hall, and you were there. Let's talk a little bit about there and start there, because it was a fun day.
Well, of course, on the 7th of September, we celebrated our 50th anniversary of incorporation of becoming a city. And what was great about it is that we actually had this open house that you mentioned, and our city manager, Ara Maranian, he thought, hey, let's open the doors up and let people in and come check out, you know, just all the nuts and bolts of how it works in City Hall. And you know, what's neat about it is that I actually went on the tour too, and I've been to City Hall numerous times, of course, but usually we're just talking to him or deputy city manager and some of the lead staff, but not everyone else. And you know, you hear about all the great work, and of course you see all the great work that our staff does, but you don't actually get to see the physical environment and you know, the work environment they're in. And I had a great time. I myself was with Eileen Hupp, who is the president of the Palos Verdes Peninsula Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
And she had never taken that tour either. So her and I walked around both first floor, second floor of both buildings and had a great opportunity to meet a lot of people in their own working environment.
And it's so nice because the residents had the opportunity to also meet the people, see where they work, and really just have a conversation with different people in the city, which is nice.
Well, that's true, and even when I was visiting with some of the people I already knew, many of the residents were coming in and for the first time, and I would go ahead and bow out of the room, and our staff were sitting down with our residents and answering questions and explaining what they do in their job, and I think that's great because the residents sometimes think, wow, what does City Hall do?
Right.
And you know, they're just good people working in our City Hall, and they have the many challenges, and so and they always do things with a smile too, which is really all part of professional service, and so that's what I love about our staff, is that they do something like this, and I hope we can, even though this happened after a 50-year anniversary, I really hope this is something that we can do every year.
I think that's a great idea, and it was great also to have our city founder, one of our city founders, Ken Dida, there, and I know he got up and spoke as well. He is such an inspiration because all of the ideals and everything that they wanted the city to be 50 years ago, you're all still fighting for and working toward, and he always talks about that, and I think it's so impactful to the residents because they get to enjoy all of the beautiful things that we have here in Rancho Palos Verdes.
Well, that's it. I mean, what Ken Dida and the other founders of the city established for us is something that can last forever here in this city.
Right.
You know, the whole sense of open space and community and making sure that you know, we all can enjoy the beauty of the peninsula and with unobstructed views, and so yes, he was there, and it's always great having him come talk and kind of just reset all of our mindset in terms of what is Rancho Palos Verdes, and so you were there recording him, and I hope people had a chance to see him on one of your channels here, and no, it was great, and we had a nice reception as well, and the city always does a good job.
Did you have any of Ara Maranian's baked goods? That's all I want to know, John.
Well, I would not go to an event without having at least one.
Our city manager is the greatest baker. Yes. I just had to give a shout out to Ara because it's, unbelievable.
Well, I'll just tell people, have the baklava anytime you have an
opportunity.
It's so good,
yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good, so good.
It is.
And then a few days after that, of course, we had the big gala at the Terranea Resort, and really we've been celebrating for an entire year. Every month there's been an event. And I have to tell you, that really was such a fun night, I think, for everybody. Everybody really enjoyed themselves. It was packed. I think everybody in the city was there. Tell me about the good time that you had with your lovely wife.
Well, thank you. Jennifer and I got there early. We were asked to get there a little bit early with the other city council members and get a chance to greet people as they came in. It was at the Terranea Resort, which I think is one of the greatest resorts in this country. Mm-hmm. And I always welcome people there. So it was great having it there. It's so appropriate. We, of course, had a cocktail reception. The food was absolutely incredible. The administration staff from the city, there was a whole table there to greet people as they came in. They were taking photographs. It was very much like a red carpet situation without the red carpet necessarily.
Right.
But the city staff and Terranea did a great job of that. We had a couple performers before the big ceremony started. We had Billy Hevner, who is the son of a couple of our residents,
Yes.
and he was playing his ukulele.
Yes, it was great.
And we've heard him before, and I
Yes.
knew that that was great. And then, of course, we had the Coast Jazz Band, and they were 4 high school students from Palos Verdes High School. And I only caught a little bit of them because everything was separated a bit. You had the indoor activities and the outdoor, and it was such a beautiful evening that it was hard to leave the outdoor space to see some of that. But I did catch some of that. And then, of course, the main event, we had our famous Meg and the Benedicts. I love that name.
I know.
And she performed for us, and then we got into what was really great is Sakura City Mayor Hanatsuka. He actually gave a taiko performance. He was up there with his drum, and
He stole the show.
he did steal the show.
It
So
was
that was
amazing.
awesome.
Yes, and you actually were taught the same drumming,
I was.
is that right? At the Sakura anniversary event.
That's right. At the
Yes.
actual event, they asked both the vice mayor of Sakura City and myself as the mayor pro tem to come up. I had no idea. You know, me being a clarinet
Yes.
and saxophone player from the USC band, I never played drums, of course. I guess it's one of those great instruments. The drummers always thought they were great, and they gave me a couple big drumsticks and told me to go up there, and I just hit the drums. I mean, but it was fun.
It's so fun,
it
though.
was fun. The drum was amazing. It was like a huge kettle drum type deal.
Yes.
Made a lot of noise.
And getting back to the gala, we had a big cake at the end, celebrating and dancing, and it was just so much fun that night to really culminate the year, I think.
It was so appropriate, and I think that I heard nothing but compliments in regards to the evening, and I think everyone had a great time, and it was a packed house. Of course, I think we had to potentially turn people away. There were so many people there,
Yes.
and which was unfortunate that not everyone got to enjoy it, but it was a wonderful evening.
It really was. And then getting back to our sister city, because that event
Yeah.
also was just so much fun. We had actually 2 groups that came, one for the sister city event in August, and then the mayor and that group came in September for the gala. And it has been such a cultural exchange, I think, for both visits. The first one, we started off at Angel Stadium. They wanted to
We
see
did.
Shohei Ohtani, and what a fun night that was to start it off.
Well, if people don't know you, you're the ultimate baseball fan, so having you there to
Thank
be
you.
our hostess,
It was fun.
it made it much better because you're able to not only, well, you're able to show us all the different parts of the stadium and, you know, press box and all these different items that the average baseball fan wouldn't have an opportunity to do. So thank you for that.
Oh, sure, it was my pleasure.
Yeah, and so the reason that we're sister cities, of course, with Sakura City is that there's now a 20-year relationship with Marilest Intermediate School and
Yes.
the teachers and administrators there, which is great. And you know, we became sister cities in August of 2020, and that was a virtual event.
Yes.
So this is really the first time that we've seen each other in person. Now, it wasn't all of their city council, and I don't have it written down here, but I have a feeling that there's at least 15 of them or so. There's a huge
I think
contingent.
even 20 maybe.
Oh my gosh, okay, yeah, 20.
Huge amount, yeah. So it's a lot of different people, which is why they also came in 2 groups.
They did.
Yeah, so that was interesting.
They did, and yeah, because of course it's quite a travel plan to be over here, and,
Yes.
and you know, not a cheap trip at all.
No.
Coming over here, but they did spend quite a bit of quality time, and I think what was great about both the first and second group was that they, you know, not only did the great event at Angel Stadium, where now it looks like this might be one of Ohtani's last years.
Exactly,
and,
it was, yeah.
and they had an opportunity to see that, but they actually took a lot of time to learn more about our city. Like
Yes.
they took a whole day tour of learning about our city of Rancho Palos Verdes, and I guess they kind of become ambassadors when they go back to Japan, and that's the whole part of a sister city, is the ability to share cultures and to share different things. And I was this close to sharing a foul ball with them too, by the way. And you weren't there to see that.
But
you
you
were in
have
the
a
press
good
box.
memory. You have a good memory of that.
Well, I do, but unfortunately, you know, I can only, other than the bruise that I took a photo of, it was the first time I've ever been even close to a foul ball, and it came and it actually hit me in the right hand, and this is a little bit I had it and it bounced up and went 2 rows forward, and all I had was a bruise to show for that. And I was going to give it to them had I done that, but oh well.
That's okay. I'm sure they had fun anyway, that's for sure.
Well, we certainly had fun, and I think, you know, they were buying a whole bunch of
yes.
goods and bringing, I'm sure they brought bags and bags back for their families and friends. And,
I'm sure.
And, that, so.
And they wanted to have the American experience of eating at a ballpark. I know that they wanted either Mexican or hot dogs or something like that. It was great.
No, well, and I shouldn't say too much other than I know they enjoyed their American beer.
There you go.
And their Mexican beer
of
too,
course.
the Coronas. They love those
Absolutely.
too. And no, they had a good time, and they were so, and interesting tidbit. So we did go to dinner one of the last nights we were here, and I asked, we had an interpreter, and of course we were talking through the interpreter, and I had asked them, you know, how many times do you meet a year? Because, you know, there's a big group of you. And they said, oh, we only have 4 meetings a year. I'm like, my gosh, we meet twice a month. And I was, you know, thinking, wow, we meet so much more. I said, how long do your meetings go? Like several hours? They're like, no, 1 month.
Oh my.
So the meetings last 1 month, so then I was not complaining anymore.
No, you're like, we'll go back to our 2 weeks, we're good.
Yeah, we'll go to a few hours every other Tuesday versus 1 month-long meeting.
So interesting how different
interesting.
and similar things are. And I had asked them, because they did go on a tour everywhere in Rancho Palos Verdes, and I said, what was your favorite part of your whole visit? And many of them said the ocean, just seeing the ocean, being down at PVIC area, and just experiencing the views. And we'll show some of the clips of that, because when you watch it, you can just see, it was just that breath of fresh air that they loved being able to see that. So I liked that so much.
Oh, that's
that.
neat. I didn't know that, but I could see that when we had them at, like you said, the Point Vicente Center, that they were always loved the views, and we love to show the views. Unfortunately, I don't think we saw, did they see any whales while they're out here?
I don't know if they saw whales, but the views were just incredible. So yeah,
the weather was great for them.
It was perfect. Yeah. So that's such a, like I said, it's such a unique cultural experience, and I know that they want you to reciprocate. So one of these days, one of these years, that you'll have to go to Succor City.
Well, maybe next year.
You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Yes.
Although I doubt it.
Maybe, well, you'll be married. You're going to be very busy, so yeah, you may not have time. That's for sure. All right, so in addition to that, I know that the City Council has been very busy with many things going on, especially the Portuguese Bend project. So tell us a little bit about where you are with that and what's going on.
Well, everyone probably knows that the Portuguese Bend landslide has been something that's been going on since the 1950s.
Yes.
And so it's not something that just happened yesterday, and the city, of course, has been dealing with the road and the utilities and homes moving for all that time. And but what we ended up, because the project to hopefully slow this down considerably, because in some places it moves several feet a year into the ocean. And the hope is to reduce that down to a much more manageable rate of speed, and sort of to protect our roads and utilities and homes. We were excited, and the staff worked very hard to receive a federal grant, which for the funding. The project itself is roughly $33 to $35 million, so it's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
And so we requested about $23.5 million from the federal government through a BRIC grant, and that of course stands for the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant. And we were successful in that, which is great news. I mean, we still need to have the additional $10 million to fund that, and we're going to be reaching out, of course, to our county friends and state of California friends to help us with that as well. And we believe that we'll be able to get full funding for that project. It's been moving forward.
I think everybody wants to know how the money is used. How does that sort of break down?
No, that's a great question, and sometimes we forget as city council members that we're in the meetings and we hear it all the time. Right. So there's 2 big strategies. Stopping the water to actually stormwater. So it's basically what happens in the landslide is that a huge mass of land, the top part of the topsoil and what's below, it gets saturated, and then there's a bentonite that basically that mass, it slides on the bentonite when things get heavy and wet. And in order to minimize that, there's 2 things we could do. First, the storm water, as water hits the ground, it flows and goes into the ground. And so getting a surface drainage system to capture that water and to control it so it doesn't soak in is one of the main things that we're doing. But the bigger item that will be the most helpful will be what they call horizontal drilling or hydro augers. And so those drills are actually underneath, because the water table, as it gets saturated, rises, and it builds up and puts that water in that mass of dirt that ends up sliding. And so if we can actually draw that water down before it saturates and gets the bentonite wet, we believe we'll be very successful in that. And so that's about a $35 million project. It's something that we feel, though, that we need to move very quickly on and do.
Yes.
We are in the middle of what they call an environmental impact report and addressing public comments, and that is a lengthy process. So that's where we're at right now. The hope is that we just actually approved the design firm and the management firms to continue on and to getting final plans done concurrently with the work that we're doing with the environmental impact report. The hope is that we start to get plans and the report certified by next year, and then start construction in the next year and a half. But hopefully, if we can get a little bit of money, we can do some of the hydro augers, those horizontal drilling, first, is to have some proof of concept to make sure that what we're doing is going to work effectively.
It's such a complex issue to deal with and challenge, obviously. And I think that you have to kind of talk it out and try to explain it, because it is very technical. It
is very technical, and we have a lot of highly technical people working on it. And you know, even myself as a civil engineer, I don't know all the mechanics of that, and we need to hire experts to do that. And our public works staff our public works staff are mostly project managers and managers, you know, and all the technical people we hire are typically consultants. And so that's why we are a contract city, is we hire experts like that. But we also need the help of our other fellow elected officials. So, you know, we of course have to thank the people in the county offices and state offices, and as we mentioned, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, for the help that they've given us. And we want to continue to keep a close relationship with them so that they can continue to help us with. It's not just a Rancho Palos Verdes problem, it's a regional problem. It's Palos Verdes Drive connects San Pedro to the South Bay, and all of the residents within the west side and south side of our city rely on that as our main road. So it's very important.
Very important. And then, of course, the City Council received a quarterly status report, and you talk about the goals that you have through 24 and the ones that you've already worked on. Tell us a little bit more about those.
Well, so every year the City Council works with staff to determine, you know, what are the right goals for our city to be pursuing, and that really is based on the things that we hear from the residents, that you know, the concerns they have, and the things that they want us to pursue. And you know, the city, the greatness of the city doesn't just happen overnight, right? It's taken obviously years to get to where we are. So a lot of our goals are protecting what we have. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we can't do things to be proactive as well. And so, like you mentioned, there's a lot, and so I'll probably read a little bit here on some of these things, just because I don't want to miss too much. So right now, and we have 18 projects that fall under at least one of the 6 City Council goals for fiscal year 2023-24. So the first bucket of goals kind of falls under public safety.
Always important.
Yeah, and so we're trying to implement strategies to enhance the residents' readiness and response during an emergency. You've probably seen in and around town the Know Your Zone.
Yes.
And so that basically corresponds to the emergency response, and so people in each zone will know which direction to go on a road.
That's right.
You know, or sometimes it's not to go somewhere, but to actually stay in your house.
Right.
And I think before everyone just packs up and leaves, if there's some type of emergency going on, people need to have that app on their phone or on their computer, or and so that they know what to do, because the message might be that, you know, there's an emergency, but it's not affecting your area, so don't panic, and don't block other people from, you know, utilizing whatever it is if we all start to try to hit the roads at the same time.
Yes.
So that's one of the main ones that we're doing. Of course, traffic safety is something else.
That's always important.
You know, it's every part of our city has traffic issues, and you know, of course, speeding and people not paying attention, and so while they drive, and so you have traffic safety issues, and so all the time our city staff is responding to that. So one of the things we want to do is enhance public safety, and then of course we're trying to also allocate some resources to do public safety services in-house. So our Deputy City Manager, Karina Banyalas, has been working on that. And because the cost of our Sheriff's Department has gone up so dramatically, that it's such a huge part of our budget that we feel that maybe there's an opportunity to take some of that stress off of what they do for us and do that in-house. So that's the three big public safety goals.
I think we're actually helping with some PSAs in that area as well, so it's always good. Just more information about that.
Well, that's good. And then, of course, one that's all dear to all of us is the public infrastructure. We've got 5 projects. Of course, we talked about completing the Portuguese Bend landslide project plans and the review. We're also wanting to create a detailed inventory of all of our public infrastructure, like our sewer systems and water systems and storm drains, just so we kind of know, what we have and keep that up to date to make sure that we proactively keep that maintained, because those things are critical.
Right, all the things that people don't think about, but they need every day. So.
No, 100. Well, once they have a problem, everyone thinks about them.
Absolutely.
You can't flush your toilet.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
exactly.
So one of the items that's always been important to all of us is the improving traffic flow on Western Avenue. So that continues to move forward, and Caltrans is the agency that controls Western Avenue, but we've been asked to be a lead agency on that. And so, we want to improve the traffic flow on Western Avenue and also do some beautification on Western Avenue, which people are starting to see some changes there.
Yes.
One of the things that we continue to pursue is utility line undergrounding, so that we can get more fire safety, certainly in our open space areas. That's important. And then one thing that I really think is important is developing a citywide wireless facility master plan. It almost seems to me that self-service has gotten worse for me, but I don't know, maybe it's my certain carrier that I have.
I think you're right on track.
It's so frustrating to lose calls, and it's not just important for, calls to your family and friends or businesses, but it's also important for emergency situations, because many of us don't have landlines anymore.
No, we live on the cell phones.
Right, so that's pretty important. So you can see within that bucket of goals, it's pretty important. City land and facilities, there's 4 projects. Implement the remaining components of our Natural Communities Conservation Plan and Habitat Conservation Plan, and that basically is citywide, all-encompassing on what type of projects we can do and what type of environmental protection we need to provide while we're doing those, and so the do's and don'ts. But instead of having to go and get separate permits for all these different projects, this is kind of an all-encompassing. Yeah, so that's really important. The updated trails network plan. If people didn't know, I'm sure most people in our city know, but we have trails all throughout.
Everywhere.
And in fact, I think at one point someone it was probably Sunshine when she was, still at it. She wanted a complete trail around the city. I always thought that was a neat goal, and that could be something that we can one day achieve. Of course, completing the Civic Center feasibility and site planning.
Right.
That's still moving forward. I was just in a subcommittee today with Councilmember Alegria, and that's still moving forward. And that's a big, complicated project as well.
Yes.
And then the last one is potentially looking at pursuing and acquiring the Coast Guard property, which is near Point Vicinity, the lighthouse property, which would really make the whole city facility that much more amazing.
It is, and it's such a special place too. So
yeah, it really is.
That would be amazing.
I mean, that's the money shot when you're out running for office.
That's right.
And I guess the last one here is the quality of life goals that we have, and basically we want to look at completing the arterial fences and wall master plan, and that's all throughout the city. If you drive on Hawthorne Boulevard, and you'll start to see it on Western Avenue as well, we've got a lot of walls and that are along our arterial roads, and so those need to look good. I mean, visitors come, we come and go on those roads, and so that needs to look good. You don't want a bunch of walls falling over and weeds in that. So that is something important to us. the completing the streetscape mass beautification master plan, which of course includes, Western and all these other cities and the medians and that. One that's really important to me is supporting local businesses and helping our businesses grow within our city.
Yes.
And not just the ones that you see in the shops, but also home-based businesses and that.
Absolutely.
And then finally a uniform street sign project, and making sure that things as they deteriorate get replaced.
It's a lot going on, always. There's a lot going on in this city.
There's always a lot going
There's
on.
always a lot going on. And then we want to remind everybody, it's October and we have Trunk or Treat coming up. Have you ever been to Trunk or Treat?
I have to admit I have not.
It's really fun. I think
Everyone
you're
says
to go.
that. No, you know
is.
what? I'm going to make a real attempt to go. And all the things I've done this year have been so fun. And people tell me they're fun, and I end up going, and they were right.
Right? Exactly.
So if you're telling me they're fun, I'm sure they are. But I know Councilman Alegria loves that event.
It's fun because everybody comes, they decorate their trunks, and then all the kids that come, they're decorated for Halloween. And then you can just get the candy out of the trunks, and everybody has a great time.
Well,
So
I love candy. So.
See, well then you're going to fit right in. That's going to be on October
Yep.
21st, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here at the Candido Civic Center. So we want to make sure everybody comes out and participates.
And you can wear costumes.
You can wear costumes.
Okay, great.
That's right. You could come as the mayor pro tem.
Ha! Well,
And you can just wear your
I'm
regular
just trying
clothes.
to think, what would the costume be? Like a mummy suit or something?
You can,
all wrapped
you can
up.
dress
Like,
up
what is a mayor
anyway.
pro tem?
Anything you want.
Anything,
you want.
okay, good.
Anything else that we missed out that we wanted to talk about today, John?
I appreciate you asking. I think, we've talked about a lot of issues.
A lot,
and I
yeah.
think the reason that there's so many issues is because we're listening to what the residents need, and then
Yeah.
there's a lot of issues that just need to be addressed and make our lives better. So I encourage that all our residents stay as engaged as possible.
Absolutely.
Bring any issues that they feel is important to us, because that's how we go and create the goals that we just talked about.
That's right.
I think it's important also that with those many projects going on, that we do have a fairly limited staff, and I know our staff tries to just jump on anytime they get a request. They do a great job of jumping on things.
They do.
But they do have to prioritize too. So I would ask that residents be patient as they can, and certainly things that need to rise to the top are going to rise to the top. Our staff is very conscientious of that.
Yes.
So I would say be patient. And I guess the last thing is that I would recommend that everyone just go and get to know their neighbors. And most important about getting to know their neighbors is get to know the senior citizens that are living in and around us, because certainly they're great people. They have a lot of great stories.
That's true.
But also, if there is an emergency situation, you want to know potentially if they might need help, and
Right.
you might want to knock on their door if there isn't a situation where they might need something. So I'd recommend that people go and get to know their neighbors. I think the holidays are coming up, and
Yes.
you could bring people some cookies
That's right.
or something nice and get to know people.
And I think that's so important too, because we talk about that when people go out of town. Let your neighbors know, and that way
Yes.
they look out for your house, and just for that extra level of safety, because some people do stay home a lot, and then they're going to be very familiar if they see a strange car or what have you. So
100%.
I think that's great advice. That's for sure.
No, I've gotten to know all my neighbors, and I love my neighbors, and I'm really glad I did. So I hope other people go out and do the same.
Absolutely. Well, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
All right, and thank you so much for watching. I'm Maria Serrao, and we'll see you next time on City Talk.